Hey guys, Desolate Magic here, back with more spoilers from Unsanctioned. In fact, I believe this is probably the rest of them. Now, we finally have an explanation for something we heard about a long time ago when this was first announced. Something didn't appear to add up with the number of new cards that they stated were in here versus the whole, well, it's 2 full decks thing. Actually, I think it might be 4 decks, I don't quite remember. Well, the discrepancy in math is apparently due to the fact that a ton of these are reprints, so I'm not sure what most people feel about that. I mean, it's kind of nice to see these cards come back, but then again, we've all seen them and had a good laugh at them the first time they're printed, so it's like, okay, some of these are kind of expensive, cool, I get it. And some of them, it's like, well, I would have preferred like a new joke or like a more recent joke that's more relevant or something, so I don't know, I'm on the fence, but let's just jump into them. So first we've got Adorable Kitten. This is one of the augment cards, a host, of course, so the normal head side is whenever this creature enters the battlefield, and then roll a 6-sided die, you gain life equal to the result, and then from there you can change the triggering mechanism by swapping its head out, with, of course, an augment card. So, yeah, this is just a actually really good card, especially for one. This is very competitive when we played it the last time. Next up is definitely a reprint, AWOL. It's a 3-cost instant, and you can tell the card is just missing. It's not the card, but the character. You can see right through it. So exile target attacking creature, then remove it from the game, then put it into the absolutely removed from the freaking game forever zone, which actually is more relevant now after they started interacting with the exile zone, especially with Eldrazi. I mean, it's kind of a shot at like the whole, remember when removed from game meant actually removed from game? It wasn't just a zone where you can like bring it back. So next up there's MC. I just don't have the time. I'm editing 2 videos today to look every one of these up, but I don't think this is a reprint, but it may very well be. So it's a 3-cost human rogue, 0/1, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you may stand up and say in a deep booming voice, presenting, in that creature's name. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. You know, that probably is a reprint. That sounds like something they would do in the past. Oh, that's annoying, disruptive, and it's going to get real old real quick if anybody holds an event with these. Next, we got Frankie Peanuts. It's a 4-cost, 2/3 legendary creature, elephant rogue. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may ask target player a yes or no question. If you do, that player answers the question truthfully and abides by that answer, if able, until end of turn. So, I mean, a basic example would be like, are you going to play a creature this turn? And then if they say yes, then they, I guess, have to? Well, unless they don't have one in hand, then they don't, but if they do, then they're forced to, and if they say no, then they can't? I'm sure there's some creative way that you could, like, shut down an opponent's entire, like, deck or something, but nothing immediately comes to mind. Next up, we got a reprint and a Monopoly reference, which is funny because I believe Hasbro owns that. It's Go to Jail, the 1-cost white enchantment. So when Go to Jail enters battlefield, exile target creature and opponent controls until Go to Jail leaves battlefield. Also, at the beginning of the upkeep of the exiled card's owner, that player rolls 2 6-sided dice. If they roll doubles, sacrifice Go to Jail. I believe rolling doubles is how you get out of jail in Monopoly, so there you go. Next up, we got Knight of the Hokey Pokey. Oh yes, it's a 2/2 for 2 double white first strike, and if you pay 2, do the Hokey Pokey, prevent all damage the source of your choice would deal to Knight of the Hokey Pokey this turn. Next up, we've got Look at Me, I'm R&D. As Look at Me, I'm R&D enters the, I assume BF's battlefield, choose a number and a second number, one higher or one lower than the first number, okay. All instances of the first chosen number, what? In the full text of each. This is just really stupid and annoying. Okay, so some of the permanent spells and cards in any zone are changed to the second chosen number. So I just stopped giving a crap halfway through that. I think you can change a 1 to a 9 and like kill somebody in one turn. I don't know. Who cares? Next up, we got Look at Me, I'm the DCI. Oh my gosh, they're throwing darts at a dartboard while blindfolded and holding a beer. That is the most accurate representation of the DCI I've ever seen in my life. So 4/7 as a sorcerer, you can ban a card other than a basic land card. Really? Because people always call for islands to be banned. For the rest of the match. All cards with that name in any zone or sideboard are removed from the match. This would be a lot funnier if it wasn't completely accurate. Next up, we got a reprint of Old Guard. It's a 2/1 for 2 cyborg soldier artifact creature, and if you pay 1 and tap it, tap target creature without reminder text. Next up, we got Ordinary Pony. I believe that's also a reprint. Host creature horse, and when this creature enters battlefield, which is the first thing that can be overwritten, you guys know how this works. You may exile target non-horse creature you control that wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability this turn, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So in other words, Flicker Horse, aka ETB Multiplier. Next up, Staying Power, a 3-cost white enchantment until end of turn, and this turn effects don't end. Well, that could get interesting. Now that affects everything in play though, you and your opponent's cards, so that might backfire spectacularly. Next up, we've got Avatar of Me, which I could have sworn it was called Avatar of You the last time it was printed, but whatever. So this is a 4-cost blue creature avatar, and this spell costs 1 more to cast for each 10 years you've been alive. And Avatar of Me's power is equal to your height in feet, and its toughness is equal to your American shoe size. Round to the nearest 1/2. Avatar of Me is the color of your eyes. Well, Kelly Clarkson won't be happy about that one, because I don't recall Hazel being in the game. Hopefully anybody gets that reference. Oh good, if I play this I can finally bring Yu-Gi-Oh's most famous card, Blue Eyes White Male, into the game. Although I'm definitely not as flaming as that artwork. That is fabulous. After thinking, oh wow, this will be really unfair to like non-American, non-English people trying to read or figure out how to convert meters to feet and American shoe sizes and crap. You're right, you just don't know how right you are because this is only being printed in English as well. Next up, there's Carnivorous Death Parrot. Funny story, Steve Irwin, I believe it was, said that the only animal he's truly afraid of are parrots. They are a little bit more vicious than you might think. So anyway, it's a 2/2 for 2, flying, and at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Carnivorous Death Parrot unless you say it's flavor text. And the flavor text is, save a kill spell to deal with this guy. A vanilla flyer with a downside. I'm going to give this a 0 out of 10. Next up, one of the most famous cards ever made. It's Cheaty Face. Oh yes. Does it cost 2 or does it cost 3? I believe the official ruling was finally verified to be 3, but don't quote me on that. It's a 2/2 for whatever, and if Cheaty Face is in your hand, you may sneak Cheaty Face onto the battlefield. If an opponent catches you right away, that player may exile Cheaty Face, and it also has flying. Now watch out if you're playing experienced players like pro players, they're already really good at this. And I believe one of the other like official unofficial rulings is by right away they mean the same phase. Either that or the same turn. I think I've heard both. I don't know. Go ask Mark. One of the better strategies I've heard of, and you got to be pretty quick with your hands to do this and pretty precise, but when your opponent's not paying attention, you slip this in under one of your lands and like line it up absolutely perfectly and hope that they don't notice the slight elevation change. Next up, we've got Chicken a la King, even though I'm pretty sure that's a rooster. 2/2 for 3, and whenever a 6 is rolled on a 6-sided die, put a +1/+1 counter on each bird, and there are a couple in this set. And then tap an untapped bird you control, roll a 6-sided die. Next up is Common Courtesy, a 4-cost blue enchantment, and whenever a player casts a spell without asking your permission while casting it, counter that spell. That is the most draw-go classic blue I've ever heard. Now, the even better thing is when a player asks you permission to cast a spell, and you refuse, counter that spell and sacrifice Common Courtesy. So it's like a delayed blast fireball, but in counterspell form. Yes, I know, 2 different games. This kind of reminds me of Didn't Say Please, which is an actual card. Next up, we got Johnny Combo Player. Oh, you know it. Hey guys, did you know this is also a reprint along with Timmy? There, I said it. Can the comment section stop posting that now, please? So, yeah, this is a 1/1 for 4. You pay 4, search your library for a card, put that card in your hand, then shuffle your library. So it's equally as broken as the typical combo playing douche, but also equally disruptible as the glass cannon running aforementioned douche. Johnny is a boring one-note, one-trick pony asshole, and I hope that he gets his little combo countered. Next up, we've got Magic Word. It's a 3-cost aura and enchant creature. As Magic Word enters the battlefield, choose a word, whisper the chosen word, and tap enchanted creature. I'm actually pretty sure that's from the last unset, because I remember doing something kind of like that. So a conditional pin down and don't forget to use it. Not too bad for 3. Next up, we've got Merman, which can be turned into anything, man. So 3/3 for 5, and when this enters the battlefield, you may draw a card. So then when you change the condition, you could really get drawn a lot of cards. I think that's why it costs 5. I mean, this is a very powerful card. Next up, we got Richard Garfield, PhD. Definitely a reprint, obviously. Come on, who hasn't seen this card? So this is a 2/2 for 5 legendary creature, human designer, and you may play cards as though they were other cards of your choice with the same mana cost. You can't choose the same card twice. And by the way, they mean the exact mana cost. So the exact number of generic, the exact color, and number of each color. So to say that you're going to have to memorize a pretty extensive list of cards is an understatement. Next up, we've got Timeout. It's a 5-cost instant. Roll a 6-sided die. Put target non-land permanent into its owner's library just beneath the top X cards of that library, where X is the result. Fun little card there. Love that. Next up, we got Wall of Fortune. It's a 2-cost artifact creature wall with a bunch of big old D&D dice on it. And it's a 0/4 wall with Defender, of course, and you may tap an untapped wall you control to have any player re-roll a die that player rolled. So you can make your opponent's good rolls maybe worse. I mean, maybe better. You never know. And then you can take your horrible rolls and make them better. Maybe. I mean, you at least get a second shot at it. Next up, we've got Booster Tutor. Okay, here we go. It's a 1-cost black instant. Open a sealed magic booster pack, reveal the cards, and put one of them into your hand. This is so classic. I've heard some stories about this. Now, don't forget, though, it says remove that card from your deck before beginning a new game. So this isn't like a permanent edition where people just have to take your word for it. So, yeah, bring your wallet. Next up, we've got Dirty Rat, a 1/1 for 2. When this creature enters the battlefield, target opponent discards a card. Oh, turning that into a recurring ability with a different conditional trigger would be annoying. Next up, we've got Duh, a 1-cost black instant. Destroy target creature with reminder text. I love how it's just like, well, duh, I knew what that effect did. Next up, we've got Enter the Dungeon, a 2-cost black rare sorcery. Oh, here we go. Players play a magic subgame under the table, which is now deemed the dungeon, I guess. Starting at 5 life and using their libraries as the decks, the winner searches their library for 2 cards, puts those cards into their hand, then shuffles their library. Oh, you guys, not everybody's capable of crawling under the table. This is very ableist. That is a satirical, hyperbolic parody of SJWs and their stupid speech. It is not a serious assessment of this card. It's a joke. Apparently, I have to say that because some of you are idiots. In fact, I'll explain the joke to you. It's meant to outline how stupid, outrageous, and ridiculous SJWs are with their constant, oh, this is that, this is that, this is a complaint. I'm actually making a valid complaint about this, even though it's truly and utterly ridiculous. Holy crap, some people. Anyway, this is an annoying waste of time, just like Shahrazad, and that card was banned from literally everything. So next up, we got Hoisted Hireling. It's a 2/1 for 3, and Hoisted Hireling is flying as long as it's being held above the battlefield. I mean, I can play pretty well one-handed, I'm just saying, but, no rule about sticking it in your mouth either. It does say above the battlefield, so the battlefield is considered generally the table. Well, you better be leaning forward, just saying. Next up, we got definitely reprinted. It's Infernal Spawn of Evil, a 9-cost 7/7, and it is not a demon, it's a beast, and it has flying and first strike, and if you pay 2, reveal Infernal Spawn of Evil from your hand, say, it's coming. Infernal Spawn of Evil deals 1 damage to a target opponent or planeswalker. Activate this ability only during your upkeep and only once each turn. Oh, how foreboding. And then, of course, we've got the Infernal Spawn of Evil. It's a 10-cost 8/8, and it's a creature, not beast, demon child. And it has flying, first strike, and trample, and once each turn while you're searching your library, you may pay 2, reveal Infernal Spawn of Evil from your library and say, I'm coming too! If you do, Infernal Spawn of Evil deals 2 damage to a player of your choice. Well, there you go. Now you get the reference on the third one. Next up, we got Inhumaniac, a 1/1 for 2, Brainiac. And at the beginning of your upkeep, roll a 6-sided die. On a 3 or 4, put a 1/1 counter on Inhumaniac. On a 5 or higher, put 2 1/1 counters on it. And on a 1, remove all 1/1 counters from Inhumaniac. This was a really fun and crazy card last time it was printed. Next up, we got Jumbo Imp. Oh, he a chonker. It's a 3 cost 0/0 with flying, and that is some small text. Oh boy. So as Jumbo Imp enters the battlefield, roll a 6-sided die. Jumbo Imp enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the result. At the beginning of your upkeep, roll a 6-sided die, then put a number of 1/1 counters on Jumbo Imp equal to the result. At the beginning of your end step, roll a 6-sided die and remove a number of 1/1 counters from Jumbo Imp equal to the result. So he gets bigger, he gets smaller, you never know what'll happen, but if you start to get way bigger, he is flying, which means you could easily win the game with him, and he could also accidentally die. Fun, chaotic card. Next up, we got the infamous Ghost Chicken, Poultrygeist. It's a 1/1 for 3 with flying, and whenever a creature dies, you may roll a 6-sided die. If you roll a 1, sacrifice Poultrygeist. Otherwise, put a 1/1 counter on Poultrygeist. Now remember, there are cards that let you re-roll dice. Next up, Skull Saucer. Oh, here we go. I remember this one. It's a 4/1 for 6, flying, and when it enters the battlefield, destroy target creature and put your head on the table. Sacrifice Skull Saucer when your head stops touching the table. I'm actually pretty sure I made an ableist joke about this the last time it came out, so I'll just skip it this time. Next up, Snickering Squirrel, a 1/1 for 1, creature squirrel advisor, and you may tap Snickering Squirrel to increase the result of a die any player rolled by 1. So very, very, very powerful in the whole, like, don't roll a 1 card archetype, I guess I would say. And next up, Stinging Scorpion. Of course, when this enters the battlefield is the normal trigger. And then target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn. I thought for 5 as the 3/2, this was a little overcosted. Next up, we got, oh yes, Blast from the Past with the old school card border on it, or card frame or whatever. So this is a 3-cost instant, and it has Madness 1, Cycling 2, Kicker 3, Flashback 4, and Buyback 5. Those are all very old mechanics. And then Blast from the Past deals 2 damage to any target. If the spell is kicked, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. Next up, Common Iguana. It's a 1/3 for 2. When this creature enters the battlefield or whatever, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. This is actually very useful in whatever the last one was called, Unsomething. So next up, Goblin Haberdasher, a 2/2 for 3, and it has Menace, and other creatures you control wearing hats in their art have Menace. Fantastic. Next up, Goblin SWAT. I've noticed that a lot of foreigners have no idea what SWAT is. Special Weapons and Tactics. It's like the SWAT team, for like police, like heavily armored, special weapons, and also tactics. Pretty much describes it, actually. But it's also what you do to, swat at flies with a fly swatter. So there's the joke. So it's 2/2 for 4, and say Goblin SWAT Team to activate the ability, and then you put a 1/1 counter on Goblin SWAT Team unless an opponent swats the table within 5 seconds. Activate this ability only once each turn, otherwise, oh my gosh, would that get annoying. Well, this is the most poorly thought out way to accidentally change all the spin down dice on the table. Next up, we've got Goblin Tutor, a 1-cost red instant. Roll a 6-sided die. If you roll a 1, Goblin Tutor has no effect. Unless, of course, you can change the result of the roll. Otherwise, search your library for the indicated card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. So 2, a card named Goblin Tutor. 3, an enchantment. 4, an artifact. 5, a creature. Or 6, an instant or sorcery. So an unreliable tutor, but still, you get your choice of it. So you're going to go get, like, the best enchantment, or the best artifact, the best creature, if you have a valid target. And then, of course, on a 2, you could just go get another one of these. Very good card. Next up is Infinity Elemental. This creature has infinite power. It is a 7-cost mythic. So, okay, in theory, its flavor text goes on for an infinite number of lines. Now, practically, it does not, but, like, it's implied that it does. Now, there is another card in the set that cares about how many lines are on the card. So it'll be interesting to get the official, unofficial ruling about that. Next up, we got Paniac, a 0/3 for 3, and at the beginning of your upkeep, roll a 6-sided die. Paniac gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the result. Oh boy, another unreliable creature that might hit for way too much damage sometimes. Makes the game interesting, not particularly like fair or skill heavy, but whatever. So next up, we got 6Z Beast. It's a 0/0 for 4. And as it enters the battlefield, you secretly put 6 or fewer 1/1 counters on it. So by secretly, they mean out of the view of the other players. Then an opponent guesses the number of counters. If that player guesses correctly, sacrifice 6 Beast after it enters the battlefield. So get ready for some serious mind games where it comes down to Well, obviously they'd choose 6 because then it'll be a 6/6. But since they already know that I know that they're going to choose 6, they'll choose 5 because it's the next best thing, unless they think that I'm going to say 5 because of it, in which case they might have the balls to actually go 6, so I should say 6 just to be safe. But also I won't want them to have a 5/5. And what if they say 4? I mean, I'm not going to guess 4. We all know that. So, yes, let the mind games commence. I mean, if you really want to confuse your opponent, choose 0. Haha, who's crazy now? Next up, we got Strategy Schmategy. It's a 2-cost sorcery, and you roll a 6-sided die. Strategy Schmategy has the indicated effect. 1, do nothing. 2, destroy all artifacts. 3, destroy all lands. 4, Strategy Schmategy deals 3 damage to each creature and each player. Yeah, including yours and you. 5, each player discards their hand and draws 7 cards. I get it, Wheel of Fortune. And then 6, repeat this process 2 more times. Oh my gosh. I honestly just would not want this in my deck. Next up, we got Super Duper Death Ray. It's a 3-cost instant. It has Trample. That's right, this spell can deal excess damage to its target's controller. And Super Duper Death Ray deals 4 damage to target creature. So if the creature only had 2 toughness, you overflow 2 to that creature's current controller, which is, in all likelihood, the opponent. They need to make this a real thing. They could call it Spample. Spell Trample, Spample. So next up, we've got yet another Ether Vortex, or at least that's what it would say if they would have used the original Greek symbol, AE combined, whatever, I'm sure it has a name. But no, they used AE separate English, so what they actually wrote was Aether. And if you look into the reason that they stated that they changed that on all cards and all reprints, that's why I keep parodying them by mispronouncing it on purpose. Oh, pardon me, pronouncing it correctly on purpose. So anyway, it's a 5-cost enchantment, and all creatures have haste, because why not? Players play with the top card of their libraries revealed, and non-instant, non-sorcery cards on the top of a library are on the battlefield under their owner's control, in addition to being in the library. So, good luck figuring out how that works. It's actually not that hard, you just enforce zone changes and stuff. So next up, we've got Bingo, a 2-cost 1/1 creature hound. It has Trample, and whenever a player casts a spell, put a chip counter on its converted mana cost. I assume they mean on this creature's art, and then Bingo gets +9/+9 for each set of 3 numbers in a row with chip counters on them. So wow, if they're running a very on-curve deck, they could get absolutely destroyed by this thing. Next up, we got Elvish Impersonators. Oh yes, it's a 4-cost star, and it enters the battlefield, and you roll a 6-sided die twice. Its base power becomes the first result, and its base toughness becomes the second result. So more fun with that mechanic. Next up, we got Growth Spurred. It's a 2-cost instant, and the very, very large text on this card says, roll a 6-sided die, target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn where X is the result. Next up, we got Old Fogey. Oh, yes, we're going way back on the frame with this one. So, it's a 2-cost Summon Dinosaur. Oh, boy, I haven't seen that wording in a while. So, it's Summon Creature Subtype Dinosaur. It has Phasing. Oh, God. Cumulative Upkeep 1. Echo. Fading 3. Oh, this thing sucks. But then again, it is a 7/7 for 2. Bands with other dinosaurs. Good luck with that one. Protection from Homerids, which I believe is like crab people or something. Snow-covered Planeswalk. Flanking. And Rampage 2. If you thought Blast from the Past was old, these are some antique references. So I could explain what all the mechanics do, but just go look them up yourself. They're pretty interesting. They're almost all downsides too, by the way. And I gotta read the flavor text. These kids today and their collector numbers and their newfangled tap symbol. 20 Black Lotuses and 20 Plague Rats. Now that's real magic. There was no limit of 4 per deck, by the way, back in the day. So next up, we've got Mother Kangaroo, a 5-cost 1/1, but when this creature enters the battlefield, roll a 6-sided die, put a number of 1/1 counters on this creature equal to the result. So if you can change that trigger to anything you could repeat, watch out. Next up, Free Range Chicken, a 3/3 for 4, and you pay 2 and roll 2 6-sided dice. If both results are the same, Free Range Chicken gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is that result. If the total of those results is equal to any other total you have rolled this turn for this ability, sacrifice it. So then they explain it, even though it's quite self-evident what it does. For example, if you roll 2 3s, it gets +3/+3. But if you roll a 4 and a 2 for this ability later that turn, then sacrifice it. So the total cannot be rolled twice, whether it matched or not, I believe. Too late, too lazy to reread it. Next up, we got Slaying Mantis. Oh, Lucha Libre action coming in here. Love it. It's a 7-cost 6/6 insect wrestler, and it has just a second. As long as this spell is on the stack, players can't move cards on the battlefield. I wonder why it would have you do that. Oh, probably because it enters battlefield by being thrown from a distance of at least 3 feet. When Slaying Mantis enters the battlefield, it fights each creature an opponent controls that it touched as it entered. If you think, wow, what an interesting, silly mechanic that never would really be in the game. Sure. I mean, other than Chaos Orb, and actually a couple others if I'm not mistaken. Next up, we got Squirrel Farm. Hell yes. 3-cost enchantment, pay 2, reveal a card in your hand covering the artist credit. Target opponent guesses the artist. If they guess wrong, which they will, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. Yeah, I would pretty much just either guess Therese Nielsen across the board just in case, or Vincent Van Gogh. Yeah, you pretty much actually have to study to play against that card, which is why I absolutely hate it. Next up, we got Wild Crocodile. It's a 1/1 for 2, and when it enters the battlefield, or whatever, you know how it works at this point, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. So nice little ramp card, nice little cheap augment card. Then we've got, here we go. The 5-in-1 special. I don't even know where to start reading this. It's basically who, what, where, when, why. And honestly, they probably should have released this at a little bit higher resolution. I'm having a little trouble with this one. Okay, so it looks like the white one is an instant that's X plus 1 white. Target player gains X life. Cool. Then we've got 2+ red, destroy target artifact. Okay, so these are all very classic, color-based stuff. Then we got When, which is, of course, 2 generic plus 1 blue, counter target creature spell. Oh, that actually sucks. That should just be cancel. Then we got 3 generic plus 1 black, destroy target land, which, I guess is kind of black. It almost should just be creature. And then 1 green and 1 generic, destroy target enchantment, which is distinctly weaker than Naturalize. These are kind of disappointing, actually. They should have just picked murder and naturalize and counterspell. Well, anyway, at least they're kind of having a bit of a laugh at the fact that they keep adding more and more weird sideways cards and double cards and all that. They have reached peak, whatever you want to call this, card splitting. I actually really want a copy of this just for the meme. Next up, we got Bronze Calendar, which there's a lot going on here because clearly that's a colander. And also, I just discovered by Googling this that I've been spelling and saying colander wrong my entire life. I thought it had an I in it. So anyway, this Bronze Calendar, apparently, it's a 4-cost artifact. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. You must speak in a voice other than your normal voice. And whenever you speak in your normal voice, sacrifice Bronze Calendar. So the flavor text is every page holds a month, every date, a numeral. I don't get the joke here other than, haha, it's a colander and it sounds like calendar. But what the card does has nothing to do with it. You don't talk into a colander to change your voice. You talk into a voice modulator. Is it a language accent pronunciation joke? I just totally, this is lost on me. Honestly, if they're making fun of people with speech impediments with this or something and trying to pass it off as haha, really slight joke, that's actually pretty offensive, legit. Anyway, moving on, we have Entirely Normal Armchair. So this is an artifact, and during your turn, if Entirely Normal Armchair is in your hand, you may hide it on the battlefield. You can try at least. And for 0, you can return Entirely Normal Armchair to its owner's hand. Only an opponent may activate this ability, and only if they see Entirely Normal Armchair. So in other words, you really want to hide it under a land. Then if you pay 2, sacrifice Entirely Normal Armchair and destroy target attacking creature. So pretty much everybody I know just calls this Cheaty Chair. Next up, we got Jack in the Mox, of course. It's a 0-drop artifact. Roll a 6-sided die. This ability has the indicated effect. 1, sack it and lose 5 life. Ouch. Otherwise, add for 2, add 1 color, add 3, add the other color, and all the way up to 6. Well, might as well call it Power 10 now, although this would probably be the weakest out of all of them. Next up, we got the legendary meme, Krark's Other Thumb. And it goes back to Krark's Thumb, which was a die rolling mechanic last time they had a die rolling mechanic. It's a whole thing, trust me. So, 2-cost legendary artifact. If you would roll a die, instead roll 2 of these dice and ignore one of those results. Very, very, very powerful. Next up, we got Paper Tiger. It's a 4-cost 4/3, and creatures named Rock Lobster can't attack or block. Yeah, you know the rest of them are coming. Then we got Pointy Finger of Doom, though, in the meantime. I guess they didn't feel like putting these next to each other. Nor did I, because I could have arbitrarily changed them. It's a 4-cost artifact. If you pay 3 and tap it, spin Pointy Finger of Doom in the middle of the table, which should be pretty easy because it'll probably curl right out of the box. And make sure that it rotates completely at least once, then destroy the closest permanent that the finger points to. So it's like Spin the Bottle, but with more murdering. Next up, we got Rock Lobster. And that in itself is a reference to a song. Anyway, it's a 4-cost 4/3, and creatures named Scissors Lizard can't attack or block. Hey, next up we got Scissors Lizard, which, by the way, that is just the best artwork ever. It's a 4/3 for 4, and creatures named Paper Tiger can't attack or block. And these are all colorless, so, the funny thing is a lot of these are draft cards, but we're buying this product as pre-made decks, I'm pretty sure. Now, it might function as a cube if you wanted to, throw them all together and draft it, but wouldn't you just draft pretty much one of the decks, and then these, colorless cards that could go anywhere would just be up for grabs? But then, the dice rolling ones would only be relevant to the dice rolling mechanics, which I think are only in, 2 colors, so I don't really get what the point of including these was. I mean, it would be kind of funny if these were all in one deck, but I have a feeling that one of each of these is in, different decks or whatever. I really should just look up how many decks are in this damn product, but I'm still way too lazy. So next up, we have, a reprint of Sword of Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, it's pronounced dragons. All of you saying dragons are either British or wrong. Or, let's be honest, both. So this is an artifact equipment, and the equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from rogues and from clerics. Fantastic. Whenever an equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create a 4/4 gold dragon creature token with flying and roll a d20. If you roll a 20, repeat the process. And of course equip 2, so quite a powerful card actually. And next up we've got a not quite as powerful weapon here with Water Gun Balloon Game. So it's a 2-cost artifact, and as Water Gun Balloon Game enters the battlefield, each player puts a pop counter on, and then of course it's really hard to read, but I guess it's 0, and that's 0 left, 0 right, the 2 meters. I mean, you know how the game works. And then whenever a player casts a spell, move that player's pop counter up 1. Whenever a player's pop counter hits 5, the player creates a 5/5 pink giant teddy bear creature token and resets all pop counters to 0, and then you do it again. Yeah, we don't really need to reward Storm players, but also this isn't a legal card in any format. So next up we finally have an Augment, which is half squirrel, half, and then whatever. And it has -1 attack and -0 toughness, because of course. And whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield, that is the trigger condition. So that is no joke. And it only has an augment cost of 1. So you would not rely on the creature itself in all likelihood, but you would rely on whatever the trigger is. And we've seen some pretty crazy triggers. And next up we've got Humming, which adds, it's +2/+3 in flying, which is why the augment is 4. And whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, then light off the effect. Once again, very, very, very powerful card overall, especially for 4 mana. Next up we've got Topsy Turvy. Oh, great, an enchantment. And 1 second, I'm totally not rotating it. There we go. The phases of each player's turn are reversed. What a nightmare. The phases are in reverse order: ending, post-combat main, combat, pre-combat main, and beginning. So I guess, yeah, you wouldn't, do, damage before swinging, whatever. I mean, there are more phases than that, but they mean, like super phase or, phase category or whatever. I don't know. There isn't really a term for it, but I'm just saying they wrote the card wrong. Unless they are called sub-phases and I just didn't know that this whole time. Who knows? Who cares? So as long as there are more than 2 players in the game, the turn order is reversed. That's fun. I like that. That's just dumb. And then for some reason we have plains and islands and swamps and mountains and forests, but they're not in the really cool frame. Wow, what a welcome addition that everybody's going to applaud. Seriously, what were they thinking? The only value in this set is the reprints and the lands. So that's the most unpleasant surprise from this entire set of spoilers. So finally, that is all of them. So, I mean, this actually now looks pretty fun to play. It still does resemble like actual decisions and, you know, attack block decisions and when to cast what when and stuff. It's just wacky and unpredictable. You can't take it too seriously and you can't be too concerned with who wins. Which, in my opinion, is a great way to play Magic. Although, I mean, I like to be in full control, predictability, and crush people with like exact strategies and decks that I actually built, not decks that Wizards built for me. So I don't know if this product is still necessarily for me, but if somebody was like, here, we've got this product, it's pre-made decks you want to play, I'd be like, yeah, sure, fun, you know, let's go. Otherwise, honestly, I don't think I'll be picking it up. And I think a lot of people that are on the fence about it, they're like, I would kind of like it, but, I mean, they're silvered, they're only playable as is. Ooh, I mean, I think the answer is no after they release product after product after product after product. I mean, the wallet fatigue is real, and when this only works in the deck that you put them in, or, well, actually, really, I should say the decks they came in, this product is not going to sell a whole lot. But, hey, Wizards brought it on themselves, right? So, it is what it is. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think now that we've seen, I assume, all the cards, and I will see you guys next video.